Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming. Good to see a good turnout again from the 4th Light Horse Association. So again, if this is your first meeting or this is the 100th time you've been here, welcome back. On behalf of the trustees of the Shrine of Remembrance, I get the wonderful job of thanking you for your pilgrimage back to this wonderful place. So thank you. The Shrine also acknowledges that this wonderful place of reflection is on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nation of the Bungarong people. The Shrine respects their elders, past and present. Shrine Guard. Take post. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able, please stand for the loyal hymn. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. We'll now have the Lord's Prayer, so if you wish to bow, please bow. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I'll ask Susan Meyer now to give an address on the 4th Light Horse Memorial Association.
Hopefully this is going to be low enough for me. Great, thank you. I'm very proud today to be here to give the address as the President of the 4th Light Horse Memorial Association. Thank you for coming along to this annual privilege to the Shrine of Remembrance. Being here with us today, you are continuing a tradition that the men of the 4th Light Horse themselves started. Their first such pilgrimage taking place in 1947, always a family event at which the men were encouraged to bring along their wives and children. I would like to acknowledge here with us today our patron and historian, Dr. David Holloway, OAM, and his wife Karen, Mr. John Baker, immediate past president of the association, and his wife Sandra. We know that the men of the 4th Light Horse were very special, as for many of us here today, they were our fathers, uncles, great-uncles, grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers even. The regiment itself is very special in that it was so well documented, not only in the official war records, but the personal experiences, reminiscences and stories of the men who so expertly documented by our official historian and our patron, Dr. David Holloway, who has dedicated a large part of his life to this quest. A debt owed by us all to David, whose expert knowledge of the 4th Light Horse is without equal. About the regiment. The 4th Light Horse is often described as the premier light horse unit. It was formed on the 11th of August 1914 at Broadmeadows as the divisional cavalry of the 1st AIF. The original 4th Light Horse Regiment was a unique regiment among a unique volunteer army, as it was the only Australian Imperial Force unit to serve on all 3 major theatres of war: Gallipoli, France, Palestine. As a consequence, the 4th Light Horse has the largest number of battle honours of any unit that served 1914 to 1919. the only regiment too to have reason to have two colour patches. Endure and fight is the motto of the 4th Light Horse, endurance that equally applies to both men and to their horses. After Gallipoli, the regiment's first major battle was at Beersheba, that audacious charge by 800 or so Anzacs of the 4th and 12th Light Horse Regiments. Late in the day, and almost as a last dramatic attempt to ensure access to the town's water wells, came the decision by General Harry Chauvel to put Grant straight at it. So Grant's mob, mounted on their horses, equipped with their rifles and bayonets, this time acting as cavalry, under heavy shell fire, they captured the town of Beersheba. This charge at Beersheba is described as the last great cavalry charge, an event that will continue to be remembered on the 31st of October, as the memory of these men and what they achieved should never be allowed to fade. Beersheba was also the victory that turned the tide against the Turks and opened the way for the British to enter the Holy Lands of Palestine. The fact that our 4th Light Horse troopers played such a major role in the success of that action on the day is yet another reason why we can be so rightly proud of this regiment. About the association, it is thought that the first gathering of men from the 4th Light Horse took place with Gallipoli wounded meeting together in London in 1916. Some of them even marched in that very first Anzac Day parade in London. Back in Australia, the need to keep contact with their comrades was a major reason why the returned men of the 4th Light Horse Regiment formed their regimental association back in 1917-18. One of the regiment's earliest commanding officers, J.K. John Kelty Forsyth, affectionately known as Dad Forsyth, was unanimously elected as the first president of the association. The stated objective of having an association was to preserve the spirit of comradeship, to try and hold the regiment together once the war ended. It became a means to maintain the mateship and camaraderie formed on the slopes of Gallipoli in the heat and dust of the Sinai Desert, Palestine, the mud, mosquitoes and malaria of the Jordan Valley, and in the mud, blood and horrors of the Western Front. To help each other out, to look after those less fortunate among them. Mostly, though, their association was established to maintain an interest in and a link to their magnificent regiment. And that is why their descendants and other interested people who join us still continue to do this to this day. The talking point today, we've chosen just to speak about one light horseman from the 4th Light Horse. RSM Alexander Wilson, Regimental Number 209, a labourer from Traralgon and trainee minister with his local Methodist church, was an original member of the 4th Light Horse. Alex was assigned to A Squadron. He enlisted on the 19th of August 1914, aged just 21 years. He served with distinction on Gallipoli throughout the campaign, being promoted several times. Then, with his regiment, back in Egypt in September 1916, he wrote the following prose as the first entry in his fellow light horseman Mark Geary's autograph book. Here we go. We cannot all be heroes and thrill a hemisphere with some great daring venture, some deed that mocks at fear. But we can fill a lifetime with kindly acts and true, for there's always noble service for noble souls to do. However, just 13 months later, Alex Wilson was indeed to become a hero. He is now remembered as one of the 7th 4th Light Horsemen who were killed in action during the charge at Beersheba, found deceased the next day in the 2nd Turkish Trench, still astride his horse. It is worth noting that RSM Alexander Wilson had a premonition a few days before Beersheba. Acting Quartermaster Sergeant George French, when describing the activities in the lead up to the action at Beersheba, stated, "I remember Alex Wilson remarking that he was sure there was a bullet for him at Beersheba." But back to the autograph book. This autograph book, when finally complete, full of names, signatures, sketches and quotes from the men of the 4th Light Horse, was sent home to Victoria to Miss Annie Geary by her brother, Light Horseman Mark Philip Geary. This small 1916 booklet and other postcards and photos sent to Annie gave a hint that Annie Geary and Alex Wilson were very fond of each other. Descendants of the Geary brothers, members of our Memorial Association, consider that the loss of Alex was the reason why their great aunt never married. I'm sure that there are many of us who would have an unmarried aunt, great aunt in our family trees. A personal cost of the Great War, families fractured, and the men returning from war very changed. Some never managed to fit back into society. Another outcome of the Great War that was to change Australia in so many ways. For the returning men, a reluctance to ever really speak to their families about what horrors they had witnessed, and for the Light Horsemen, the tragedy and unspeakable sadness of having to leave their horses behind. For the 4th Light Horsemen, the opportunity to meet regularly, which was happening monthly from 1923, with their comrades and to retell their stories was a comfort for many. In closing, the troopers and officers of the 4th Light Horse Regiment were ordinary men who were asked to do extraordinary deeds, often under unbearable circumstances. They were horsemen, they were Anzacs. Also, they were the first Victorians to volunteer for mounted service, and finally, they had met all Dad Forsyth's high standards, his requirement for his men to have an unblemished character and a good reputation. Our association will continue to keep their stories and their memories alive. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. It's great doing this service. I've done it a couple of years now, and I always learn more and more each year because you bring out new stories every time we do a service, so thank you. It's good to know that I'm still serving, so some things just don't change. That support for veterans when they come home is still critical now as it was back then. And on a hot day like today, water is still essential. Hey, we get to this wreath laying section now. We've got 2 wreaths that we'll lay today. You've also been handed poppies, so you'll get a chance to lay your poppies at the end of the service just after the National Anthem. But at this stage, we'll just do the 2 wreaths. And today they're being laid by Mrs. Patricia English and Mr. John Baker. Thank you. Now, as I call Brenda Mansfield to the lectern to do the ode, I'll ask everyone to stand, please.
Oh, you beat me to it. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. If you would remain standing for the national anthem, please.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thanks, everyone. You can now be seated. Well, now at the stage where we can lay some poppies. So you'll see the two urns on either side. Please, if you wish to lay your poppy, come up and lay them. I'll do the first one, so you know, if you haven't done it before, I'll show you what to do.
I'm not going down to the horse trough. If anyone wants to go down to the sanctuary and see the feed onto the horse Light Horse, I'm going down there. I think that's all about it.
Thanks, everyone. And just before we close the ceremony today, I've got two announcements to make. And following this service, everyone's most welcome to join all of you for afternoon tea under the oak tree. And I think John just said that he's going downstairs for the Gideons, and he was more than happy to talk to you about them. But the last one is, please don't forget about the assembly at 2:30 at the Purple Cross Horse Trough, where the good Dr. David Holloway will give a short presentation. Shrine Guard. Dismount. Again, that concludes the service today. Thank you for coming. Great to see you all. Hope to see you next year as well, for those that are here and also those that are online as well. Thank you.